One of my viewers got in an argument with me over trade, and when he lost the argument, he basically told me, "Well, you may have been right there, but you suck at trade, and I'm way better than you." So I challenged him to a duel. The rules were pretty straightforward. We both have until 1610 to get the most trade income. And I ended up with 68,185 ducats a month in trade. As of now, the user is still working on their round, so I can't say if I beat him or not. But I did want to talk to you guys about what I learned about trade and try to give you guys some tips. Of course, 68,000 is plenty of money monthly. I can actually sell titles for nearly the cap of money, which is kind of funny. But I want to show you guys what all this nonsense is about. Like, why is there so much OPMs and nonsense going on? And kind of just enlighten you guys with all the information I learned about trade. I'll try to include as much information as possible, just kind of any tips or tricks that I can think of. If you guys enjoy this, please consider subscribing. And also know that I'm no expert on trade, so anything I say could be wrong. So don't yell at me for that, okay? I'm innocent. So I'm just going to kind of list off in no particular order things I learned about trade. Trade steering is the strongest modifier, I think, but only if you have a lot of nodes that connect to each other. And you want to create this kind of omega chain. So I think this channel is the end node, but you can see we're transferring trade basically everywhere. So we go from England to Champagne, Rhineland, Saxony, Austria, Pest, Ragusa, Constantinople, Aleppo, Basra, Hormuz, and then kind of into India, and that's kind of where the path ended. I think technically we go from Malacca, so Malacca to Bengal, Doab, Gurjat, Hormuz, Basra, Aleppo, Constantinople, Ragusa, Pest, Wien, Saxony, Rhineland, Champagne, English Channel. Anyhow, so this big old chain, and the bigger the chain, the better. And basically, if you want to make outrageous amounts of money like I'm making now, you need to have a long chain and you need to stack trade steering. So we're using trading cities here. You can see all these like random OPNs of our nation. We create trading city, and each one of these trading city adds 5% steering, and you can do one of them in every trade region. So in theory, I could have a lot more trade steering, and I could probably, let's say if I had another 40 years in the campaign, I'm sure I could like overcap my money or something like that. So I didn't quite get to where I wanted to. So basically, every region you could have an extra 5% trade steering. So that's probably like 40% there, another 40% there, and anyhow, and another bunch of percent here. So I probably could have had like plus 100% plus more trade steering because you get 5% for every one. And then you also have these trade protectorates, which are basically just they provide, I believe, goods produced, but you can only make 75 trade cities. So you can see in here, I'm getting like plus 2% goods produced over and over and over and over. That's because we have these little guys here. So basically, you can turn a trade city into a trade protectorate, but you do lose the trade steering buff, and you can only have 75 total. So just keep that in mind. One option would be using client states, but I don't have the option to use client states, but you could technically client state and get another 100. So that'll give you like another 200 goods produced, something like that. So that is another option. But let's look at this government reform here, because this thing's crazy good. It's a tier 1, but you have to be the Omen culture group, this culture group here. But this thing allows you to make the trading cities, and you can still be a monarchy, so it's kind of cool. Another thing I learned is about your Navy tradition and how you can kind of just protect trade in a region, and you get a ton of tradition. And tradition, this leads into, you can see at the bottom here, plus 95% trade steering at the moment. I was at plus 100 earlier, but we lost a little bit. But it also gives you other bonuses as well. But I think the most relevant one is the trade steering. And there's a great project here that's like super useful for that. It gives you plus 100% Navy tradition when protecting trade. So generally, you could just have a bunch of ships protecting trade, and you're going to be getting that plus 100% at all times. Another thing is, of course, trade companies, which I kind of knew about before, but I moved my capital over to the New World, and then I basically trade company everything. You can see here, like, everything's a trade company. So if you go to our subjects, let's see, if you go to here, you can see that there's like, a lot of extra merchants from trade companies. Also, one thing I didn't mention about this government type that's really cool is your subjects can transfer 100% trade. So if you hover over this divert trade, they give up 100% of their trade power to us. So it's super nice. So I ended up just like vassalizing people at the end. Like I just vassalized Russia and I vassalized Shun, and they're all just transferring trade to me, right? Because regardless of loyalty, trade just works that way. I'm going to talk about a couple great projects that are also pretty useful. So there's this great project over here that provides 20% trade efficiency. There's this great project in Bengal that provides 20 trade steering, an extra merchant. This great project over here provides an extra merchant, but also reduces the cost to promote mercantilism by 33%. This great project reduces the cost to promote mercantilism by 15%, as well as idea cost. This great project over here gives you some trade efficiency, as well as caravan power and global trade power. And by the way, I have no idea what caravan power does, really. So who knows what that does. But it has trade efficiency, so that I do know that that's good. And if you do trade ideas, you can get this government reform. It's like a decision. And that's how you create these weird protectorate things, like these over here that I spammed out, just so that you know how that happened. You can offer this to anyone. So I have a bunch of these trade protectorates. Like I think these guys are trade protectorated as well, and they do provide me that bonus as well. My idea was to basically, if I could conquer more land than England feasibly could, then I would just be better off, because this is a challenge against England after all. It's to see if I can generate more trade than he could. This run was one of those runs that's like everything made sense. Like everything was great on paper in this run, but when it came to actually doing the run, there was a lot of issues. Like I wanted to conquer like way more land, but I ran into a lot of admin problems, because even if you have 90% problem score cost and 90% CCR, it's still just so expensive to, let's say, annexing the Mamluks, for example, was just like 1,000 admin points, even though I had 90% CCR. So I wish I would have kind of sacked admin efficiency a little bit, because I probably could have. So just kind of ran into some problems that I didn't really expect to run into, and I just wanted to do like way better than I did in a lot of different ways. Like I didn't charter company very well. I dropped exploration. I took exploration for a short time, and I probably should have kept it longer. So definitely, if I did it again, I would do a lot of things different. Like I would probably charter company to all the regions to make the trade city things, so you get more trade steering, because trade steering seems to be the most important modifier. I think if I was to arbitrarily rank the modifiers, I would say trade steering is the most important, then goods produced, then trade efficiency. I also learned that factories are very important, but it seems as though workshops don't really do anything. It's kind of how it felt, I suppose. Trade power doesn't really matter, because if you already own like all of the region, then what's the point of, you already have max trade power. So I kind of learned that trade power is only relevant when you're contesting it. But if you own the entire region, like trade power doesn't really seem that useful. And so protecting trade, let's say in the English channel at this point, wouldn't do anything, because I already have all of the trade power. But I could definitely see the value of trade. It was very tedious to do all this. I played a lot on 4-speed and that sort of thing. So it's one of those things that's kind of like, trade is super potent, but it also feels like it's going to be a bit tedious to like set up all the trade companies, go through and make sure all your merchants are at the right percentage, and try to be at 51%, because you want to be at like the optimal level of control. So it is kind of tedious, but obviously the results are pretty insane. And one thing I wanted to mention too is the power of interest per annum. So basically, there's a bunch of great projects that help for this. Not remember all of them, but there's one gives you interest per annum, and then there's this one here that also gives you the interest per annum. And then in our religion, we were Protestants, we can pick this one, the production efficiency, and that essentially allows us to take loans as if they were just all burger loans. We want, it's 1% interest on any loan. So you can see I go to repay the loan, and literally it's just 1%, which is super handy. So I could take a lot of loans, build myself a bunch of factories, and I'm really not paying too much in interest. Anyhow, we'll see if that's enough to beat our England individual. Hopefully I crushed him. Hopefully my trade income is just miles ahead of what he could do. He's going to be playing England, and I'm not sure if he'll beat me or not. There was a little bet that we had. I win, then he needs to write a handwritten apology and upload it to my Discord. And he also has to sub with his free Prime subs for a year on Twitch. And if he wins, then he gets a custom role in the Discord. I did tell him he didn't need to do the year of Twitch subs, but he said that he didn't use them anyways, because I felt bad about that. But anyhow, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this one. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a great one.